somebody else live. We are totally live. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm not gonna wait for people to connect because I want people to refer to this video after we've done it, and that's the reason why we're gonna start right away. This series of videos or conferences that I'm gonna be giving are going to be focused on competition. And the reason why is because it is competition season.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you speak Spanish?
A little bit. Sí.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch it to Spanish right away.
Yo me defiendo.
Anya told me you spoke Spanish, so I was like, I'm already preparing my questions in Spanish.
Okay.
Pues muy bien, chicos. Estamos aquí en World Champion Wednesdays y la razón por la cual vamos a empezar esta serie que no va a terminar hasta más allá de diciembre, yo creo, es porque ya empezó la temporada de competencias. De hecho, este fin de semana muchos de nuestros bailarines y amigos se fueron a competir a Fusión, que es una competencia que se está perfilando como una de las más importantes, por lo menos de México. La siguiente competencia es Eurozone Latino, luego sigue World Salsa Summit y luego sigue World Latin Dance Cup. Entonces, para iniciar esta serie, tenemos nada más y nada menos que al multicampeón mundial, Jeff Taveras. Spanish or English?
Muchas gracias por tenerme. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Vamos a, lo podemos hacer en inglés como tú quieras, back and forth.
Back and
Aquí
forth.
todos somos bilingües. ¿En dónde estás ahorita? ¿En Nueva York?
Sí, yo tengo escuela ahora mismo en Connecticut. En Nueva York yo doy clase 2 veces a la semana. Yo tenía un estudio en Nueva York por casi 10 años. Okay. Y ahí mismo antes de la pandemia se me acabó el lease en el lugar. Entonces el dueño en ese tiempo quería vender el building, so ahí perdimos la casa que teníamos en Queens, pero ya yo tenía el estudio en Connecticut, entonces yo empecé a dar clase 2 veces a la semana en Manhattan y tenía el estudio aquí en Stamford, en Connecticut. Entonces después pasó todo y cambió la situación.
Y Connecticut está cerca de Nueva York, ¿no?
Sí, yo llego, es como media hora más o menos. So, no es muy lejos. Tú sabes, a veces hay tráfico cuando yo llego, pero cuando me voy para mi casa, llego rápido, llego de una vez.
Perfecto. Y Huracán Dance Company, ¿dónde creció? ¿Dónde nació? ¿Fue en Nueva York o en Connecticut?
En Nueva York. Nosotros nacimos en Nueva York. Yo cuando yo empecé a bailar, yo empecé con Santo Rico Dance Company y en el principio yo iba a continuar con el grupo. Yo estaba directando el grupo por un año, entonces después de eso decidí hacer mi propia compañía y hicimos Huracán. Y de ahí seguimos y tú sabes, competencia no es algo que yo pensaba hacer. Yo estaba viajando mucho y estaba yendo a un congreso antes y tú sabes, competencia no es algo en el principio, yo no lo entendí mucho, ¿verdad? Yo nunca le entendí como la gracia de la competencia en salsa. Yo era atleta y yo jugaba pelota, yo jugué en el colegio, yo jugué béisbol y cuando era más joven jugaba fútbol americano y básquetbol, pero cuando yo dejé el deporte, para mí el baile era algo completamente diferente. Entonces cuando entré a la competencia, ahí fue que vi que en el baile te saca lo mismo que
sí. Eso era algo muy importante. Pues estoy viendo que tu carrera es como casi llevas la misma carrera que Osmar Perrones, por lo que veo, porque los dos salieron de Santo Rico y los dos eran peloteros. Peloteros quiere decir beisbolistas,
Sí,
¿ok? Para los mexicanos y los latinos que nos están escuchando, pelotero es beisbolista pero aquí se me hace muy interesante porque precisamente yo te comento, cuando yo te vi la primera vez fue en World Salsa Summit. Y yo dije, ¿quiénes son estos Huracán Dance Company que son de Nueva York? Porque para nosotros, la gente de Nueva York precisamente no compite. Entonces, ¿cómo es que una compañía de Nueva York ahora están compitiendo y directamente ganando la competencia? Entonces me pareció algo muy interesante y esa es la razón por la cual te quise invitar, porque son muchas las cosas y porque este episodio lo estoy haciendo mayormente en español, porque quiero que mis compatriotas, los mexicanos y también los latinoamericanos, empecemos a ver las cosas de una manera distinta. Viendo, por ejemplo, por eso te quiero preguntar, ¿cómo es que tú, estando en la meca de la salsa, y con toda esta gente que defiende el baile social y el espectáculo, así sin mucha técnica, o sea que es diferente que la competencia, ¿cómo tú decides, ahora me voy a cambiar a competencia? Porque definitivamente es like a different animal, right? Es completamente algo distinto. ¿Cómo tú decidiste hacerte esa diferencia?
Ok, bueno, cuando yo empecé a bailar en Nueva York, la verdad es que los bailarines de Nueva York no le daban crédito a la competencia.
Exacto.
Eso es la verdad. Y yo no, como yo llegué, ¿verdad? Yo nunca cogí mi primer clase de baile, tenía 22 años. Yo nunca había cogido una clase de baile. Como yo llegué al baile, yo acepté muchas cosas como eran, porque si las cosas son así, así es que son. En mi mente, yo no, por eso que te digo que la competencia no es algo que me atrayó. Yo llegué y me sentí como, ok, yo voy a coger mi clase. Entonces después me dijeron, ¿tú quieres bailar en este equipo de estudiantes? Y yo dije que sí. Entonces después un día me dijeron, ¿quieres entrenar con el equipo más grande? Y yo dije que sí. Entonces me dijeron, vamos a viajar y yo viajé. Pero yo no, cuando yo viajé la primera vez fue que yo vi los otros artistas y lo bueno que eran los otros artistas. Pero la competencia no es algo, yo nada más, lo único que yo sabía de la competencia fue que había una en el 2006, yo creo que fue en Vegas. Entonces en el 2007 había otra competencia en Disney que estaba en ESPN y yo llegué a verla un poco, pero para mí yo mido 6'3" y yo, tú sabes, estaba pesando casi 300 libras. Cuando yo vi competencia, yo dije, bueno, yo no me parezco como ellos. Eso no es algo que yo puedo hacer como quiera. Yo nunca pensé en la competencia. La verdad fue que en el 2016, el New York Movement fueron a hacer competencia. Y Edwin, que yo nací con Edwin del New York Movement. Edwin y yo jugamos en el colegio y en high school juntos, y él estaba en el equipo. Cuando él hizo la competencia, yo hice un evento en el estudio y yo puse la competencia en la pantalla y invité a todo el mundo, y mirando la competencia, yo pensé, wow, como que yo quiero tratarlo. Pero en mi mente, otra vez, como te dije, yo no creía que eso era algo que podía hacer. En ese tiempo yo acaba de no conocer, pero empecé a trabajar con Aña. Y Aña siempre empuja para competencia, pero no, en el principio no me empujó a mí para hacerlo. Ella como que nada más me puso la competencia adelante. como que me la enseñó, pero ella me dijo un día que ella se sintió que si ella me empujaba en eso, que yo no lo iba a hacer, porque otra vez, como te dije, yo tenía esa mentalidad de los bailarines de Nueva York y yo me considero un bailarín callejero, tú sabes, de la calle, social y todo eso. Pero entonces de ahí yo lo que empecé a hacer fue, yo traté de entender qué era la diferencia de la competencia Ajá. Y de bailar en un congreso, en una tarima. Y yo empecé a hacer preguntas y empecé a mirar la rutina mía con un ojo diferente, ¿verdad? Entonces de ahí yo hice una rutina y en mi mente, yo no se lo dije al equipo, yo hice la rutina pensando que yo quería tratar de hacer la competencia. Y eso fue en el 2017. Y se la enseñé a Aña y Aña me dijo, sí, vete pasando, ve, tú nunca sabes. Entonces yo traje a Billy al estudio y Billy me dijo, con esa rutina tú no terminas en los primeros 20, porque ahí van a haber muchos grupos y tú no vas a ser bien. Entonces cuando él me dijo eso, ahí ya yo sabía que iba a ir, porque yo dije, ok, vamos a ver si es verdad, sí, vamos a tratar, porque ahora yo no me voy a quedar atrás porque él me dijo eso. Yo quiero ir y que los jueces me lo digan. Y en primer año salimos en tercer lugar. Entonces ya ahí dijo, ok, wow, tengo que regresar. Segundo año, segundo lugar. Entonces el tercer año ganamos. Pero,
qué interesante. Ahora explícame qué fue lo que hiciste del tercero al segundo al primero. ¿Cuál fue la diferencia? ¿En qué te enfocaste?
Bueno, primeramente yo hice lo posible para entender lo que los jueces estaban buscando, ¿verdad? Porque la verdad es que tú le preguntas a 5 jueces qué quiere decir tiempo y te van a dar 5 responses, ¿verdad? 5 answers. Esto es el tiempo, this is timing, y te lo explican en 5 diferentes maneras. Y lo que yo me di cuenta es que todito estaban diciendo la verdad. La verdad estaba en el medio de todo lo que estaban diciendo, porque todos los jueces te dicen algo similar y algo diferente, ¿verdad? Entonces, eso es lo primero que yo hice. Yo empecé con todas las cajas. ¿Qué es lo que las cajas están buscando? ¿Verdad? Como te voy a poner un ejemplo. Cuando yo fui a Uruzón, ese año ganamos en enero en Summit. Y cuando terminamos, el equipo estaba bien feliz, tú sabes, ganamos 2 veces esa noche. Competimos en 2 divisiones y ganamos 2 veces. Entonces, cuando terminamos, yo le dije, ok, yo quiero ir para Uruzón. Porque yo sé que en Uruzón a ese tiempo no había grupo de Nueva York, no iban a Uruzón. Y Uruzón era una competencia grandísima y buenísima. Sí, yo le dije al equipo, ok, vamos a Uruzón. Y cuando llegamos a Uruzón, esos grupos en Uruzón, ellos hacen muchos trucos y el equipo mío, nosotros no hacemos trucos. Entonces, cuando yo llego y yo veo que ellos están practicando y todo el mundo está volando y haciendo eso y nosotros bailamos en el piso. Uno se siente un poco complejado porque, ok, bueno, vamos a ir contra estos equipos que están haciendo su truco y lo están haciendo bien. Pero a la misma vez lo que yo siempre he tratado de hacer es que a mí me gusta hacer lo que yo sé hacer. Yo sé hacer vueltas, vueltas que se mueven de un lado de la tarisma a la otra, que son rápidas y que los bailarines se están moviendo los pies, que no es fácil, ¿verdad? Hay mucha gente que hacen vueltas, pero tú ves que se paran y hacen su vuelta. Entonces, en el equipo mío, eso es algo que nosotros practicamos. Tú sabes, la salsa, el básico de nosotros siempre trabajamos en el básico. Yo siento que hay muchos bailarines que hacen muchas cosas técnicas, pero a veces les falta el básico. Entonces, si yo hago algo técnico y tú estás de juez y tú lo ves, tú, Gaby, no va a ser fácil porque eso no es algo que nosotros hacemos a lo máximo. Entonces yo fui cambiando, en vez de hacer lo que yo creía que la gente, lo que creía que necesitaba hacer, yo hice más de lo que hacía bien y entonces trabajamos eso para llegar a otro nivel.
Y a la vez también eso definitivamente es como estas cajitas de las que hablas, son los criterios, like hitting the boxes, right? Y aquí para los mexicanos que nos están escuchando, esto es algo bien importante, o sea, que no trates de copiar y no creas que, para ganar tengo que hacer como los que están haciendo esto que está muy impresionante. Como juez, tú estás viendo cosas diferentes y lo que importa como un competidor, lo estamos viendo aquí, cuál fue tu estrategia. Tú fuiste a pegarle a las cajitas y sabías que la cajita de la técnica de género, que es que tu básico esté bien sólido, sabías que tú ahí podías hacer mejor que toda la gente. Y sabías también que en el timing podías hacer mejor que toda la gente, y supongo que lo de las vueltas como afecta a la caja de la dificultad y muchas veces también de coreografía, ¿no?
Sí, y tú sabes, como los costumes, ¿verdad? El primer año nosotros nos vimos de cierta manera, entonces el segundo año, eso es algo que uno tiene control.
Sí.
Eso es algo que yo vi el primer año, entonces yo dije, ok, tenemos que cambiar un poco aquí. Y entonces de lo demás, tú sabes, con un equipo, todo el mundo tiene que estar en la misma página, ¿verdad? Porque eso es lo más difícil. Tú, el último año de nosotros, más difícil porque los bailarines míos, ellos ahora tienen mucha oportunidad de hacer otras cosas. So, no estamos ensayando 3-4 veces a la semana, ¿verdad? Si tenemos show, nosotros nos encontramos, ensayamos 2 o 3 días y para adelante, pero que eso es difícil. Antes, cuando estábamos en el estudio practicando, ensayando 3-4 veces a la semana, uno empieza a tener una química, uno empieza a mejorar un poco diferente, ¿verdad? Entonces, cuando todo el mundo quiere lo mismo, ¿verdad? En el equipo mío, yo soy director, pero si alguien viene y dice, yo quiero tratar esto, y lo tratamos y si pega, se pega. No tienes que ser que yo ponga algo con esta persona o que este tiene que bailar adelante no, lo que sea mejor para la rutina, eso es lo que va. Y tú sabes, ellos saben que yo soy así. A veces hay demasiada idea. Entonces ahí es que yo entro y yo digo, ok, vamos a parar porque vamos a hacerlo así. Pero a mí me gusta darle a ellos la oportunidad de poner lo que ellos piensen y que le gusten a ellos. Yo siento que como equipo, cuando nosotros toditos ponemos un poco de nosotros, sale el producto mejor. Y tú sabes, trabajando, hay que trabajar. La competencia uno gana, entonces hay otra persona atrás esperando que quieren lo mismo y van a ver la rutina tuya y van a decir, ok, yo puedo hacer eso mejor y van a trabajar. Y entonces uno siempre tiene que seguir trabajando para adelante.
Muy bien.
Y entrenar.
Voy a empezar. Acá tengo unos comentarios. Dice, bueno, Edwin Talentino dice, saludos. Él es el que mencionabas.
Sí.
Saludos. Ya vamos a pasar ahorita al inglés.
Sí,
a menos de que la gente quiera hacer una pregunta en español. Pues chicos, ahorita vamos a pasar al inglés. Le voy a hacer unas preguntas. Ya estoy emocionadísima aquí. Creo que me quiero quedar aquí preguntándole a Jeff como 500 cosas que quiero que ustedes escuchen. Realmente, chicos, quiero que escuchen lo que es la diferencia de ser un campeón, de ser un bailarín de salsa para escenario, que un bailarín de salsa para ganar una competencia, que son cosas distintas. Jeff lo personifica. Si ustedes vuelven y ven sus presentaciones, sus shows, se van a dar cuenta que aunque él no lo está mencionando ahorita, sus coreografías sí tienen un alto nivel técnico. Trabaja mucho en los cambios de formación, la dificultad, pero la limpieza, sus coreografías son muy precisas y hay mucha coordinación. Y como él lo menciona, no tiene trucos porque eso no es lo que te hace ganar. No los trucos y las cosas que nosotros pensamos. Hay cosas más internas que te hacen ganar una competencia. Bueno, voy a pasar ahora ya al inglés porque te voy a hacer unas preguntas. Y bueno, aquí te está saludando un chico que es en México, él tiene una página muy grande que se llama Salsero Amargo. Y pues qué bien, espero que todos los mexicanos y los latinoamericanos estén viendo este programa, que se lo pasen, que investiguen, que contacten a Jeff por más preguntas que tengan para saber. Si ustedes les ganó Jeff en la competencia de Eurozone, pregúntenle cómo le hizo. Agárrenlo para que sea su coach. Hagan las cosas, no copien, creen a través del conocimiento. Y bueno, ya me voy a pasar ahora sí al inglés. I'm going to start, now I'm going to start with some questions, Jeff. Thank you so much for doing your Spanish. It was perfect. It was so, I love it because it's like Dominican. It makes me remember my partner, Darling Garcia. You speak exactly like him, and I love it. And a big kiss and hug to Darling. I hope that he is watching us. If not now, I hope that he and his students can watch us today because they're also a big competition team. And I know that they're going to just benefit from picking your brain. The way I'm doing it, I'm just benefiting so much from this conversation. So I'm going to start with the first question. Let me just see. So, okay, Jeff, you're a social dancer. You're like a big time you were the director of one of the biggest companies in New York. So what benefits does becoming a competitor bring to like a dancer? What benefits does it bring?
When you compete, it makes you, it forces you to focus on everything, right? So you have to, it's no longer just turn patterns. It's, you gotta be connected. You gotta use, you gotta move. You have to work on your lines, and like I said, sometimes I don't, my technique is not perfect, but it's something that we still work on, and we try, we work on getting better with it. And one of my dancers, Brianna Rios, she dances with Charlie now, and she's also dancing with Adolfo with Latin Souls. She's huge on that. So I say, Brianna, watch her feet, and she's like, okay, guys, point your toes here, do this, do that. So it makes you work things that you normally don't, right? It makes you try to open it up, and it challenges you to try to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. right? So if somebody on my team suggests something and it's something nice and I struggle with doing it, I can't say, well, we're not going to do it because I can't do it. I have to work to make sure that I can keep up or learn whatever it is. So yeah, it makes you open it up. And another thing is, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I'm glad you noticed. We try to do a lot of creative formation changes, and we try to tell a story almost. As corny as it sounds, that's the way that I look at it. We try to tell a story with what we're doing, and we try to tell it through competition, right? We try to stay true to that. We try not to just, I don't come to the table like, all right, we're going to do footwork here, we're going to do partner work here, we're going to do this. No, we try to, paint a story. And I usually like to tell them, like, okay, when I hear this song, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what's in my mind. This is where I want to go with it. And we try to do that and make, and compete with it, right? So that way, it's not just a piece. There's so many competitions that night. It's easy for the judges to get bored. We don't want to bore anybody. We want to make sure we're entertaining and we're doing that we're putting all these details in at the same time. So, but yeah, no, it makes you work and it makes you stay on top of your game, because the minute you don't, there's somebody else and they're waiting, and they want to take your spot. So it does make you work different. It makes you work smarter too.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you.
In the beginning of my
I believe the same thing. Yeah. I believe the same.
So there's a bunch of people writing to me that they're watching, but I don't know if they're watching on
Juanito. Who's Juanito? Julino. Somebody is who know? Somebody's trying to hack on our system. I'm not even joking. This is so funny. I never seen this. Okay, let me see. Are they commenting? Tell them to show up and then comment.
Yeah.
Where are they?
So one of the things I wanted to say when I first started directing, I used to just again.
Yeah.
But as you go, right, you start learning. You got to work a little bit smarter instead of just,
harder.
Right.
Totally. One thing that I say, and it came out as an innovation, I guess. Like when I said, I was in my show that I have with Anya and Aubrey, mm-hmm. and I said, listen, guys, I said, I was talking to like all the teachers out there and all the dancers out there. And I said, practicing is not training. Like if you practice, and then you do it like without technique, without proper warm up, without like being smart about it, you're not training. You're just like practicing something that hopefully is not wrong in the first place. Because if it's wrong in the first place and you're practicing it, all you're doing is just, becoming better at doing it wrong. So yeah. I'm so excited that you have this mentality, because when I go to New York and I see these people like they even practice with tricks and everything, like over and over, and I'm like, wow, that has to be tough for their bodies. I mean, I don't know how much longer do they plan on being dancers, but I don't know,
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, she's Bridget. Let me just that's my boss. Hi, Bridget. Hello. She says you're her boss. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next question, and then that I just recently judged with you in a Japanese competition. Yeah. So and I noticed that you were giving different feedback that I was getting, and then also Anya and all the other judges were giving different ones, and I was very interested to see your perspective, and it was very refreshing, and it was something that I wanted you to talk to my Mexicans and my competitors and everyone about. Mm-hmm. What as a judge, what do you look for especially like, I wanna cheat here, but like I was very interested to hear your feedback on salsa when you were judging, and you were focusing a lot on. I listened to you talking a lot about the basics, a lot about the fundamentals, and a lot about the salsa. How, you know? Yeah, I'm just gonna let you do it because I don't want to answer for you. So what do you as a judge, what do you focus on, or what do you see that probably competitors don't see?
Well, I think it's, it is a salsa competition. I think sometimes we forget that, right? So, I'll give you an example. I think Adriano is a good example of this. Adriano is he's an excellent salsa dancer. That's why he won so much. Or like Oliver is excellent salsa dancer. He had a very good run. I think that sometimes that gets lost a little bit, right? So although I think salsa has opened up, especially I have one of the things when I started dancing, I got tons of videos when I started, and I have tons of videos. Some of them don't work anymore, but I wanted to. Once I started doing it, I became a little bit obsessed with it. So, I wanted to. I heard about this show Latin Madness that Nelson Flores had put together, so I found it and I got it. I have videos of like LA Congress 99, 2000. I think I have a video of Puerto Rico 98. So I started getting all these because remember there was no YouTube when I started. So I got all these videos and I wanted to educate myself. If I heard a name, I wanted to see them. And I was very like, I wanted to know more about them and appreciate everybody. So if you look at it, when I go back, every once in a while, like some of the guys on the team or whatever will hang out in my house and I'll put on an old video and we'll laugh about it and we'll watch. But if you look, the dancing has come a very long way. It's a different place now. And I think that all of that is important. I don't knock it. I think that it's great that that's happening. I'm not one of, I'm getting a little older, but I don't feel like, well, back in my day, it's not that. I don't feel any of that. The one thing I do feel is that sometimes the natural salsa gets a little bit lost, and then you see everything else. And everything else may be harder. You know what I mean? It may be harder to do some of these things, but it's still a salsa competition. You still gotta show. You still gotta show that you can dance salsa, and that gets lost sometimes. And I see it. Sometimes when I work with certain dancers, or even yesterday, on Monday, I saw choreography, and I thought the choreography was really good. But I said, put a little bit more of the basic. You have a very good basic. Like show that you can dance your basic. Right, you're showing me everything but that, and I'm like, and to me, I know from experience that at some point that will catch the judge's attention. So, that's my perspective on it. Again, just because we don't do tricks in my company doesn't mean I don't enjoy a trick. I love watching tricks. I love watching Afro. But I think there's a time and place for everything. But you still gotta go back to your core. If it's a salsa competition, you gotta show salsa. You know what I mean? If it's a bachata song and I'm doing salsa steps, for $15, exactly, we got a problem, right? So at some point, you still gotta be able to show this. If you got beautiful lines and technique, show it. If you can do a rumba and you can kill it, then do it. But at some point, you gotta show your salsa basic, and I think that gets lost, that's my one thing, and I feel like I can. That's the one thing I feel confident, like judging. I feel confident in that. I can definitely talk about that, and I can definitely see that, and I can see, I understand, like connection to clave and all of that stuff. I feel confident with that. So that's basically where I go, and that's I try to coach my dancers that way. When I get that, I had a couple that came to me. They say, "Hey, we want you to choreograph our cabaret routine." I said, "Okay, I'll choreograph the salsa, but I'm not gonna, I won't touch the tricks. I won't even go near it." And I was like, "I can probably do some stuff and show you, but it wouldn't make sense. You need to go to somebody that does that, because you're better off doing that." And I just try to stay, like I said, in my lane in that way. I could help with groups, I could help with formations, I could help with stuff like that. And I may even suggest certain things. Like, hey, you know what? This would be good, but you got to learn that from somebody else, because that's just not something that I should do. And I try to stay away from the things I shouldn't touch.
Joanna de Jesus said that you're the best coach, and then Julia Aponte says that
Julie's my partner and my fiance.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yes, she's a
very nice. So yeah, Jeff, one thing that I ask a lot of salsa competitors who are judges as well is something that I get very confused and a little bit annoyed by, but I don't feel like you say, like I feel more confident and I have more authority in bachata, and definitely in everything that like in all that technical stuff and competition and stage presence and whatever, than in salsa. Not because I don't know enough, but I think that you guys know more, and people want to see you talk about these topics more. But I see this very unfortunate trend. I'm a judge at the World Latin Dance Cup, and then when I judge salsa, I see that definitely the basic, both for salsa and bachata, have been like erased, almost non-existent, and I see this very weird trend of Afro put in like on como a la fuerza, like making it in place, putting it in places that doesn't make any sense musically, or even doesn't make it flow with the choreography. And also it's just like the way they've been doing it, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I saw one of the things that you told one of these dancers who was really good. You spoke about how, like, if you're gonna be putting in Afro, you gotta do it with a certain movement that goes along with the Afro, right?
Yeah.
And I see that people right now are learning the Afro movement as if it's a choreography, and then they're using it in a way that makes no sense. It's just like, what do you think about that?
And then here's the problem with that, right? So the problem with that is that if you put a move where it doesn't belong, then you may even offend some people, right? So that's tricky. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, right? I've taken Afro classes here and there, but sometimes you almost feel pressure to do it because everybody's doing it, and I think that's the difference. From when I first looked at this, because I'm like, even this year, the last competition that we entered, we're the only group that didn't do Afro in the division. Everybody did it. And then you open up a can of worms, because it's like, if you're going to do it, right? So now you're competing, right? And this, I have amateurs that compete, and they come to me with a lot of things like that, like, hey, we want to put this in, what do you think? We want to put corkscrew turns, what do you think? We want to put Afro in, what do you think? And I watch them do it, and I go, okay, so look, here's the deal. And I try to be honest, because I don't want to discourage anybody from doing something they want to try, but at the same time, and this is the way that I always put it, you're going to do Afro, you're going to be in a division that's going to have 40 competitors. And out of 40 of them, 15 of them are going to be really, 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 really good at Afro. And your Afro, realistically, right now, it doesn't keep up with theirs. So why would you want to put yourself in a position where the judges are going to judge your Afro versus theirs? Doesn't make sense to me, right? So I think a lot of people actually shoot themselves in the foot because they do it, and then somebody comes out that really does it, and they kill it, and now you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. And trust me, a lot of judges speak about this topic. Like I said, I sat down with a lot of people.
Like, what do they say? What do they say? Give us the scoop.
They don't like it. And some judges, that have actually really studied this, like I said, they're like, oh, it's offensive to me. Like you're just coming out and you're doing something and you don't listen. There's a lot of dancers that say like, well, why do you have to associate, rumba or Afro with religion? And it's like, well, because the religion drives the dance, not the other way around. It wasn't a dance created in a studio, right? This is a dance that there's history behind it, right? So if you don't understand, what Chango is, then you shouldn't be trying to Chango if you don't get it, and if it doesn't go, and
then like the worst part is like when they put it in a way that looks like a copy of something else, and then they put it like on top of a mambo or like something that it just makes no sense, right?
So I've heard that, and I've put in a move or two, and but again, like kind of did my research, asked about it, kind of got approved first because I know. So I've done like a 2-bar move, right, where I've been like and then I've gotten feedback. I sat with Tito and I've said, look, I got this. Is it in bad taste? Like, no. And he'll tell me like, oh, I have an issue with it when this. And he tells me, I'm like, okay. He's somebody I trust. I trust his opinion a lot. I look up to him a lot. So, I'll ask. I don't have a problem asking for help, right? Or I don't have a problem asking. But, I think that, in certain cases, it's in bad taste, right? And I don't think it's in bad taste for everybody, but it just feels like everybody's going that route because I feel like everybody feels like they have to do it.
Right? Yeah, and that was another question that I had. Do we have to do it? I mean, if I decide to enter a salsa competition, do I have to put in Afro? Is it like absolutely necessary? As a judge, I see it just so confusing. And so it just doesn't do anything to me. I mean, for me, like when I see it, that it's just not communicating anything. And I'm like, take it off.
Yeah. It's again, it's to say that Afro is not part of, because there's some people that are like, well, Afro doesn't belong in salsa. And at that point, I don't agree with that because the reality is, if you listen to the salsa music, right? A lot of salsa music they're talking about
it's Afro-based.
When you hear El Hijo de Obatala, what are they talking about? Right? So when people say that the two don't go, it's a mistake. That's not
no, definitely.
But again, if there's a place for it, but it's not everywhere.
So it's not like saying that the two don't go, but they don't have to like. Right. I would think that salsa is salsa, and if you want to put in Afro, then you can, but it's not like an obligation. Right. You're not obliged to do it. Like it's not like if you don't do it, the judges are gonna be like, "Where's your Afro? Right. Like, where's your basic?" Does that make sense, right?
The team from Mexico, Open Break,
Mm-hmm.
This in Summit, there was another team that, their afro was actually pretty good. And open break outplaced them. Our open break finished higher than them. Open break had a really good show, and I think that they had an unfortunate situation this year. But I think they could have easily won it this year. And that's no disrespect to anybody. To Iroko did great, but I think open break had a really good shot this year. And the third place team, I love that team. I think that they're good. They're gonna be great. But watching the routine, I'm like, it's just too much afro. It's still a salsa competition, even though they were good at it. Right? It's still a salsa competition at heart. So it's like, if you look at the rules technically say, well, 80% salsa, right? So if you're doing 50% afro, you're asking for it, and I think that happens too much.
So smart. So smart what you just said. It's like, I wish everyone, all of us, like understood this, because it is, you started by talking about, like you did this in Spanish, but you started by talking about how when you went to compete, the way you won, what you started winning was by hitting the squares, the little boxes, right? And then how do you do that? Well, you look at the rules. And if the rules say 80% salsa, don't try to go in and then just try to be like, oh, but I'm going to be very innovative and I'm going to bring in cha-cha or afro or whatever, because judges are going to notice. And then you're going to be like surprised about why is it that you didn't win? Well, it's because it's not a show. It's a competition. Right. So this is like, it was so smart, this comment. I'm happy that I asked you this. Okay, so what advice would you give competitors nowadays? Like when you see competitors now compared to before, what do you see that they can be focusing on to improve or to go in the right direction? Like how would you take them out of the wrong direction into the right direction?
Well, I think definitely on a personal note, stay true to yourself, right? So do you.
No copies.
I think that a lot of times we forget that, and I think that has to do with insecurities, right? When you're insecure about something, you start looking over your shoulders. Next is ask for help. There's a lot of people with a lot of good advice, and the reality is you don't have to use all of it, right? You don't have to use all of it, but it's worth listening to what people have to say, because I think dancers sometimes they have issues with feeling like, oh, if I ask for help, then it's not mine, right? And that's like let's take sports for example, right? You're a baseball player, and you need hitting lessons. You go to a hitting coach, right? That's just the way it is. And at the end of the day, you still got to hit the baseball. Your coach is not going to hit for you. You can come here and you can come to New York and work with us, and you can tell us like, hey, guys, do this, that, and you can bring every wonderful idea in the book. I know that you're fantastic, and I've seen your stuff, and I'm a big fan of yours. But we still got to deliver. You know what I mean? And no matter what, we got to go out there. We got to deliver. We have to show up. You can't show up for us, right? I work with Anya. She can't show up for us. I work with Billy. He can't. Tito, same thing. None of them can show up for us. We got to still put in the work. And the last thing is this, and I'll never forget this, and I hope Edwin's listening, because I'm gonna give Edwin a shout out on this. And I've learned more about that lately. I've done a lot to work on my health and my weight, and I've been running, and I've been doing all types of stuff that people wouldn't even understand, and my goals are ridiculous. And maybe one day I'll share them.
Yes.
One thing. First of all, Edwin was the one that got me out of my house. You know, he's the one that got me running. Edwin's always been in fantastic shape, but you know, when everything started going down and I got sick with Corona in the beginning, and I was really sick. Edwin was like, "Hey man, let's we have nothing to do, so let's go run every day." And you know, there were days that he would call me and I would say, "Hey man, like I'm gonna go tomorrow." He'll be like, we'll just do something short today, and we would go out and we would get it done. But I digress. When we were in one of our competitions, Edwin competed with us that year. It was in Huracán, and Huracán was a tough environment. We were out of our element, right? Nobody really knew us, and they knew we won. You could feel that, but they didn't know us. And you know, I really think that you know, it was different for us. We were, you know, we didn't have people cheering for us. It was just different. And I remember there was at one point that all the teams were practicing in Puebla outside in the back, and everybody's going and everybody's like all this energy. And we were rehearsing, and I was like looking around, and Edwin was like rehearsing by himself and like going over his footwork, real calm. If you ever meet Edwin, he's very like level. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, there's a lot of energy here. And Edwin looked at everybody. He was like, yeah, okay. I remind you, Edwin has won about 8 championships with New York Movement. And Edwin goes to me. He goes, I'll never forget this. He goes, it's easy to work hard when everybody's watching. And he walked away. He didn't say another word. Edwin doesn't talk much. I remember him saying that. And then I told the team, I said, guys, we're going to meet here tomorrow at 6:45 in the morning. They're like, what? I said 6:45. Because la tarima estaba llena. So you couldn't, you had to get there early anyway. But everybody was getting there like around 8. So I said 6:45. We got there at 6:45. There was 2 people there already. And we went on the stage. We were able to mark it. And then I said, all right, now let's go to the back. And we went where all the teams were and we practiced by ourselves. And we practiced for like half an hour. We just went over our stuff, went over some formation stuff. And I was like, at half an hour, I was like, okay, we're done. They're like, that's it? I go, that's it. And I was like, oh, we're going to win. And what I remember feeling is, you're right. When nobody's watching, if you can get your team to work when nobody's watching, yes, that is where it's won, because it's just different. So, and the reality is, we have been doing that the whole time, right? I don't really broadcast, and you know, we're not really showing everything we're doing in rehearsal. We're just rehearsing behind closed doors, tunnel vision. So rehearse when nobody's watching. It's easy to put on Facebook, hey, I just worked hard for 5 hours. But it's hard to work hard for 5 hours and nobody appreciate it. You'll appreciate it at the end. So
that's fantastic advice. It's incredible, and I'll tell you why. Because people, like, I noticed when you know, in that year I was there as well with my team, and we also won the competition for bachata. But my dancers are like, they want to rehearse until they die, and of course they're 15 years old, right? Of course, they just want, and then they see all the other people like rehearsing and doing tricks and with their oxygen mask and the whole thing. And I'm like, guys, we need to sleep. We need to rest. We need to, you know, like, take it easy. And they don't get it. They don't get, because all the dancers are like going crazy right there before the competition. That was such incredible advice.
And then you leave your show in practice. Right, and then that doesn't work either.
Yes.
So you know, and like I said, like, you know, with now, like with what I'm with some of the fitness goals that I set for myself, you know, I go by myself, I do it, right, and it's and that's one of the reasons I don't share it, because I don't want to do it so that everybody can say, "Oh, good job, you're doing great."
Uh-huh.
I want to make sure that I get up myself and I go and I put in the work, right? And that's something I had to learn, because the reality is that most of us need some type of motivation, and to motivate yourself, it's difficult. And for directors, the reality is for directors that that's really what our job is, right? Our job is to motivate people, right? A lot of directors tell me like, "Oh, I gotta motivate my team." That shouldn't be my job, but that is your job.
It is your job.
Your job is to motivate your team and to put them in a position to be successful, and that looks different every 6 months. That looks different. You can have the same team, and every 6 months that can look very, very different, right?
Definitely.
So it has nothing to do with personnel. Like I've said, one time I said, in 2017 in Summit, we came in 3rd place, and in 2018 we came in 2nd place. We were better dancers the 2nd year. We were a better team the 1st year, and people don't understand what I mean by that. They're like, "Well, you did better the 2nd year. You say you were better dancers, but you were a better team the 1st year. How does that make sense?" And it's like, because as a team, the way we worked the 1st year, we did the best that we could. The 2nd year, we were much better, but we probably didn't do as well as we could have, because there was, and that starts with me, because the motivation wasn't exactly there. It's not their fault. I'm the director, so it's my fault. I have to figure out ways to motivate everybody, because at different points in your life, it's just different. You have different priorities. That's just the way it is. So, that's important too. I think that, directors, sometimes we complain too much about things we signed up for, and you can't do that. If I signed up,
and then we have it. It's hard because, as directors of a team, you have to motivate and then also set an example, because you're not going to tell people, just do as I say, but not as I do. You have to show, because these people are artists. These people have their own agenda, their own egos. And the only way you can just push them is with your own example. So I'm sure that when they saw you losing all this weight and working so hard, they got like pumped up, and they're like, "You know what? We can do it, because if he did it, we can do it too." Right. Perfect. Nemi, last question. And this is a very important one.
Okay.
How do you see the current dance competition scene, and what do you think we could do to improve? We could improve on?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I think there's a little bit of inconsistency. Are you still there? Hello?
I'm here. I just took myself out because I wanted you in the whole
No. I just wanted to make sure. I think this is a good question, and it's tough. And I think that there has to be a little bit more consistency on judges across the board, right? So what do I mean by that? I think that we need competitors should have a better understanding of what it is that the judges are looking for as a whole. I think that sometimes when you look at the scores, the scores are a little bit out of whack in a surprising way. So what I mean is, some judges, they tip the scores, right? So it's like, oh, if this group is good, they get 90s. If this group is bad, they get 60s, right? So it's a very wide range. And my whole thing is that I feel that there should be at least some consistency when it comes to that, because it confuses competitors. Or like some competitors, they feel that they may do one competition and they may score very well, and then do another competition and they may get hammered. And I hear that complaint a lot. And I think that part of the problem is that competition is growing, and it's still fairly new, right? It's within the last 20 years. So that's understandable, but I think that that's something that can definitely be improved on. As far as the competitors themselves, I think um, competitors need to open up their lens, right, and be more open-minded. Right? I think sometimes competitors get a little stubborn. I like I said before, I'm not backtracking. Dominate your strengths, but we also need to make sure that we can maximize our strengths. And I feel that sometimes we don't allow that to happen because we are not open-minded enough, right? So I have some New York City dancers that tried the competition world. You know, they were very well received in the Congress world, and then all of a sudden they tried competition, and then they were unsuccessful. And they're like, well, you know, these judges don't know what they're talking about. And at the end of the day, like, I'm a better salsa dancer than them. And it's like, well, you're looking at this wrong. And then they would tell me, like, well, you're not going to be successful. I remember one dancer specifically telling me, your cha-cha routine will never, ever go to Summit and do well. And we won with it. So, and you know what? My cha-cha routine wouldn't have won the way that it was. But I understood that. So I made the adjustments and took the routine and changed it up and made sure that, you know, it wasn't just showman. We weren't just showing and having a good time, that we were stepping in places that we weren't necessarily stepping when we were just doing Congress shows, and we went and we won. And that's just because I wasn't I wasn't gonna look at it like, okay, I'm gonna be stubborn and I'm just gonna give them this and whatever happens, happens. No, you gotta have an open mind. You gotta work with people. You have to train, and you gotta be patient, because it's really hard to just show up and win. That doesn't work like that. You gotta be patient, right? You have to be patient, and you have to take it one day at a time. So I think, and you know, and last but not least, there has to be more competitions, because if there's not enough, then, you know, everybody gears up to compete once a year, and I don't think that helps either. You know, it's like,
so what I hear is that you say that we need standards. We need like a standard of what is every one of the criterias, and that standard needs to be communicated and shared amongst all the judges in all the competitions. And also, I guess that all the competitions should share that same criteria, right?
That would be nice, but at least within the same competition. Right? So, like, for example, if for example, I went to Huracán, there was 20-something teams in my division. Out of the 20-something teams, I think two teams were on the ground, which was our team and somebody else, and we won. And, you know, and honestly, like, going into it, I told you I felt a little bit, I said, wow, man, all these teams are in the air. We're not in the air. I don't know how this is going to go. But the criteria was the criteria. So in my mind, I said, well, if what they tell me is correct, we have an opportunity to win. And we did. We were lucky enough to win. Now, if I go to another competition and they tell me, well, the criteria is salsa dance and difficulty doesn't necessarily mean tricks, and we go and we lose, and then the judges go, well, you didn't have any tricks, then there's a problem. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. As long as it's consistent and it's consistent within the competition, then I think it's okay, right? Because there's competitions that have different scoring criteria. But I think that has to be clear and across the board. And I think
because it's not.
because yeah, and I think that, you know, whoever's running a competition, you know, at some point needs to meet with the judges and say, look, this is our scoring criteria and this is what it means. Not just, you know, this is, you know, you get 20% for choreography. Well, what does that mean? Right? You know, what exactly does that mean? Is that a personal box? Is that my opinion? Or what, you know, defines that? Because I think if that rubric is defined and all the judges can sit down and say, well, wait a minute, and ask and question what the organizers want, because at the end of the day, is their competition. I think the competition game would be better. Personally, I think it would be
definitely
better. I've had a judge tell me, one time, oh, this team had the best energy, so they won from me. That's what I look for. If they have energy, they win. And I'm like,
and you're like, where's energy in the criteria?
Right. Well, right. And not only that, you know, if I ask that person what energy means, they have an answer for me. But if I ask probably you or Anya what energy means, you may have a different answer. Right? So that's what I mean. That's not a defined
criteria.
Right. Or that's, to me, that's like, well, I don't understand what you mean by that. Right. So I think that has to be clear and concise. And I think that, you know, because competition is growing, it's coming at you quick. And I know that, listen, I sat down on the panel a couple times and it's like you're watching routine after routine after routine, and that's not easy either. You know, I'm sure you have more experience than I have in that sense. So I know that that's difficult. But I think if those things are a little bit more defined, I think that the competition scene can keep growing. You know, yes. and again, it's you know, there is a lot of contradiction in competition. There's a lot of contradiction. You know, I took a lot of heat. I've taken a lot of heat for certain things. You know, my size, my, certain costumes I've worn. You know, some people say like, well, competition is too boring. And then some people have said, the same people in the same breath have said, well, you don't look professional enough because look at your size and look at what you're wearing. And that's where there's a contradiction. You know, what is it that we want? And what we want will set the tone, right? And any of it is okay. Any of it, Salsa Nama, they do competition on the stage and they do freestyles. And that's a criteria. But that works because it's like, you're going to do a freestyle of shines and we want to show you, we want you to show us to get down. And you know what? That's fine because we understand what's going on. But if the criteria is not defined, I think that's where you have issues across the board. Yeah. And I think that that's something that needs to be paid attention to. And obviously.
And the reason why I'm asking you this is because I'm going to ask this to everyone that I invite in this, because there is a lot of people that are interested in making this better, because we have students who the first question that I asked you was, what's the benefit of becoming a competitor? But then I want to close it up by making progress in terms of how can we make this community, and then how can we have competitors and the competition scene improve so that we can give more benefits to anyone, and especially for the future generations. And I think, at least in terms of the World Latin Dance Cup, I know that the owner is really working on actually doing this, like having a standard, because we know that without a standard that goes across the board, and actually like classes for the judges, And actually, he's talking about getting us to pass exams. So without that, then everything starts getting like very, like contradictory, like you said, not very clear. And then all the people are like spending so much money on costumes and traveling and training. And a lot of people are getting, and we don't want people to get discouraged of competition, but the opposite. We want this to go to the point where we can go to the Olympics, because that is right now on the table for dance. So we should be the next ones to go to the Olympics, and we can do it by doing this, right?
It should be there. And salsa's come a long way, but it still has more to go.
Yes.
It still has more to go. It can still be better. It can still have more impact. So
yes,
I think
we can definitely go to the Olympics. So guys, let me see if we have more comments. We do. And so this guy says, it would be nice also if the competitors know the breakdown of the scores, so we know what to improve on. Of course, Haley, that's exactly what Jeff was talking about. Like if competitions had a clear standard, then any judge could give you the score and tell you and explain to you why is it that you got what grade from another judge. Like if we all have the same criteria and we had this standard that Jeff is talking about, it would be very easy, for instance, for me to explain to you why is it that Jeff gave you a certain score, because we are going under the same exact book. So hopefully, guys, we have Ader is going to come to this show. And then also we already have Mr. Billy Fajardo for the 28th. So let's get ready, because we are also going to ask him the same question. All these questions are going to be for all the guests. So, get ready.
Yeah.
And I want to switch to Spanish, because I think that this was such an incredible interview. And I'm going to switch it to Spanish. Ahora, chicos, quiero decirles que esta entrevista estuvo tan llena, está llena de oro puro. Entonces, esperen a que la entrevista, si no hablan inglés, esperen a que salga en YouTube. En 2 días más va a estar traducida, porque creo que YouTube toma unos 2 días para traducir. Y vean esta entrevista, porque Jeff nos dio oro puro acerca de lo que es competir en la salsa. Todos nosotros que queremos ser competidores de salsa, es que tienen que ver esta entrevista, Muchísimas gracias, Jeff. ¿Hay algo que les quieras decir aquí a nuestro auditorio en español, para los que van a Eurozone, para los que van ahorita a Fusión?
La Fusión, no. Bueno, yo sé que ahora mismo los bailarines de mexicano y de Sudamérica están acabando con esto. Fui a Eurozone y hay el talento allá, es el futuro. Es el futuro de la salsa, y me alegro me alegro ver cómo trabajan, lo fuerte que trabajan y el respeto que le tienen a la salsa. So, mucha suerte a todito y espero verlo pronto y para adelante.
Muchísimas gracias, Jeff. Te agradecemos muchísimo. Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who joined us and then gave us their beautiful comments. I want to ask you to please share this information. And then if you want, like Jeff said, ask for help. So if there's anything that Jeff said that you want to ask him, contact him. Where can we find you, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Like on social media?
Facebook, Jeff Huracán Taveras, Instagram, whatever questions I'm not shy to answer. I love working. A mí me encanta hablar con la gente. Si tienen preguntas, ayuda, lo que sea, me escriben Jeff Huracán Taveras en Facebook o en Instagram, sin lo que sea. Y si desean, puede ser de equipo, puede ser de música. Si yo lo sé, yo lo ayudo.
Muchísimas gracias. Pues muchísimas gracias y thank you so much. Again, I can't believe, this was the second time that I ever spoke to you.
Yeah, next time you have
right?
You have one of those interesting topics that I see that you do all the time, invite me on and we'll talk about something stronger.
Yes, I'm definitely going to. I'm going to take you on that because you probably noticed that I wanted to ask you more things. And I was like, especially about that salsa thing, I just and yeah, there's so much that I want to talk about. But yeah, thank you for letting me know that you're game for that, because you know that I'm like,
I got you. I got you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You know I'm a big fan of yours. I know that we haven't really had conversation, but I'm a huge fan of yours. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Besos, muchísimas gracias y saludos a todos, chicos. Compartan.
Take care. Bye.